Well, it's 6 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. We're missing Nancy Mims. She advised me that she would not be attending tonight. Maybe David got held up in the rain, I don't know. But we do have a quorum. Now, before we get into adoption of the agenda, I have a question for staff. I have still not received section 1105, which is on the agenda. Is that coming? Did Ron complete it or what? Okay.
Since we're going to request to move them to the next meeting, all the ordinance changes, we'll have that out.
All right, then I'll request a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right. Next item is,
That motion is with.
well, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Next item is the minutes of the last meeting. Has everybody received a copy and reviewed that? And any changes or corrections?
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so minutes are approved. Now there's presentation to commissioners. Has that been delayed again? Whatever it is?
That is correct. We're going to wait to let Ron do that at our next meeting.
Well, this is about the fourth meeting that's been delayed, whatever it is. So, all right. All right, then, staff, you go ahead and tell us what you want to do about these ordinance.
Yep, so in old business, 3 ordinance revision 1 through 5, we are requesting to table until the next meeting due to Ron's sickness, and he can go over everything. He is the one that made all the changes.
I have some comments about what we were presented with. Nowhere in the ordinance is the technical advisory committee defined. And, who is it? What is it? What are the terms? Who do they report to? There's nothing in the ordinance. It just comes out, removes planning and zoning, and replaces it with the TAC.
Right.
But there's no definition of what that is in the ordinance.
We can have Ron work on that and put that in the ordinance. I can give you what the technical advisory committee is made up of, who it's made up of. So in the technical advisory committee, we have utilities, which is John Bain, that answers any of the developers' questions about sewer capacity, water availability, these things. We have the fire marshal of Carroll County that will come to answer questions about fire lanes and different questions that pertain to development. We have engineering comes which is Bobby Elliott will answer any of the civil engineering questions. Ron will answer the planning and zoning questions they have, and myself is there also. But what we do is before what the whole gist of the TAC meeting is about, before they spend a lot of money on engineering, we can kind of give them some upfront, what's allowable, what's doable, where we have capacity, what the fire marshals are going to request and what we're going to request, and also our building departments there to answer code questions and whatnot, what's allowable, what will need sprinkler, these kind of questions. But,
Again, it just seems to me that that ought to be defined in the ordinance.
okay, yep,
So-
I'll bring that to Ron's attention.
And again, I have general concerns about what was presented, not discussed yet, that it continues to take away powers and involvement of planning and zoning.
Right.
And I don't understand why that is. We keep asking for more, and yet staff is reducing.
Yeah, the result is we get less.
Yeah. So that's another concern I have. And also, it seems to me that this ordinance ought to define whatever this new commission with the school board involvement is, that ought to be defined in the ordinance as well. Who are they? What are the members? What are the terms? Again, all of that ought to be in this ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to say, I would recommend that they include a couple of members off planning and zoning onto that board.
Well, we don't know what it is.
No, we don't.
So,
But we ought to have representation there, since what they do is very much related to what we do.
Yeah,
Well-
and I'll bring that up to the powers that be, so that's my
Okay.
pay grade.
well, just so you carry those forward, I wanted to make those to Ron at any rate. Okay, well then that takes us to new business and back to staff. So the first item is Highlands Residential, RA 0622, Highlands Residential LLC.
Yes, so Highlands Residential is wanting to rezone from single-family agricultural to single-family attached SFA to construct 342 townhomes within 114 buildings on site. The applicant is here. So this came before the planning commission before, and we did not have sewer capacity, and I believe it's correct that they're going to do on-site sewer and waste management there. But the proposed development, the applicant proposes to construct 252 single-family attached dwellings within 84 buildings on the west side of Highway 61. The applicant has proposed to rezone the property to SFA from Ag. The proposed gross density is 3.75 units per acre and will range from unit size from 1,000 square feet to 1,400 square feet. 3 units are proposed to be constructed per building. The project will be an age-exclusive lifestyle community and is designed to attract empty nesters and other retired grandparents and their friends. According to the applicant's letter of intent, the property would be a rental community. Various amenities are proposed, including a club room, commercial quality demonstration kitchen, library, game room, personal training studio, fishing pond, pickleball courts, walking trails, and outdoor space. At least 3 are required by us. No information has been provided regarding how much acreage for open space. I'm sure the applicant can address that. The applicant has indicated the project would be built in 3 phases starting in 2023, and the remaining phases would be built over approximately a 3 to 5 year period. Proposed phase 1 is proposed to have 144 units. Phase 2 is proposed to have 108, and of course the rest would be in phase 3. Water is proposed to be drawn near existing sites of Highway 61. The applicant is proposing on-site wastewater treatment collection and disposal system that would be privately held The proposed per capita flow per unit is 100 gallons per day. There would be several septic tanks constructed to service the different dwelling units. The underground storage tank would provide 1 day of, or 25,000 gallons of storage, being dispersed into a drip field. The applicant has indicated the roadways on site will be private and entrances gated. The development is proposed to have 2 entrances, 1 main entrance on Highway 61 and a residence-only entrance on southbound Road.
Why was none of that presented to planning and zoning, these changes? What we have received is verbatim what we discussed in January. No indication about private sewerage. Why was that not presented to us in advance?
When we sent it out, I never got the updated application and the information, so I used the old one thinking that one was still, that was it.
We've seen nothing about this. This is the first I've heard about on-site sewerage. I don't know whether that's adequate or what.
But I did send out an email, it just wasn't being delivered. Like,
Didn't come in the email. There was, it's verbatim as to what we denied in January. So,
I would just say, Mr. Chairman, I did get within 24, 48 hours of receiving the original packet, I did receive an updated, it was called an updated agenda. It wasn't really an agenda, but I did get site plans and showing that part of that land on the northern part of the property, I believe, is where the sewage, I did see the reduction in units, the sewage on site, and I did get that in an email update.
well,
next
I
day.
did not receive it or did not see it at any rate, so. Well, is the applicant here?
They are.
And let me ask if you, this is going to be completely tenant occupied?
Yeah, or I'll let the applicant answer these questions on this, if you don't.
Well, and staff, are you okay with, what's the total eventually proposed over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, we are.
About what, 1,000 units?
No, the total, in total is 340, 252.
Okay. And is staff comfortable with us having that many tenant occupied dwellings in that space, in that area?
We'll give you staff recommendations, is approval with conditions, the rezoning is supported and the density is encouraged by the comprehensive plan. The conditions will be that BH restricted community in compliance with the Housing for Older Persons Act of 1995. Deed restriction must be filed within 30 days, but yes, staff is
All right, thank you.
on board with that.
The applicant, come forward, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope everybody's doing well on this wet evening.
Give us your name, please.
Absolutely. My name is Dave Lawful. I'm with Highlands Residential. Is that good? Do you need an address sometimes?
That's all right.
Okay. It's written down. Again, my name is Dave with Highlands. When I started this company, the goal is to create communities where my mom would want to live. She's a 70-plus-year-old widow, and I was seeking an opportunity for people that are in her age and stage to live in community with their friends. The company's goal is to create great communities for the world's most amazing grandparents and their friends. That's the goal. And our communities so far have been occupied mainly. 70% of the occupants are roughly 70-year-old widows. I mean, that really is the target market, and that's who sees the value in this type of community. It's folks that you know, before they would go into a senior living, kind of an independent living community, which, you know, in a sense is a rental product as well, right? So it's similar to that, but is for folks who, you know, don't need, you know, all their meals prepared. They don't need the medical meals and maids, as we say, of assisted living. They want something that's more truly independent, and so that's what this product is. You know, each unit has an attached garage. It's got, you know, full kitchen and bedrooms and bath, and so it's a much more of a home. It presents as a home, and it looks like a home. You know, one of the comments in the previous meeting was, you know, who would live in this type of community, and you know, again, the 70-year-old widow is part of that answer, and the other part to your question, Mr. Flowers, is you know, about the rental, and you know, in looking at the demographics within Villa Rica, about 28% of people 55 and older within the city of Villa Rica already rent, and our goal is to, you know, create the best rental product here in the community, you know, for that serves that need. Let me go through the project a little bit, and you know, I can talk about, you know, how we addressed kind of the engineering problem, if you will. You know, it's right south, it kind of wraps around the V-Plex, fronts Highway 61, so it's got good, you know, infrastructure. It also fronts South Van Wert, and so, you know, it's got great access, and so it doesn't, you know, impact you know, it's not in the middle of a residential neighborhood per se. It's got a median down the middle of South Van Wert, and so it's just a right in, right out, and you know, it's got good distance. Let me go to this site plan, because this is probably better of a site plan. So let me make a couple of points. A little bit more visible on this one. So this back area, this was phase 3. We deleted that entirely, and that's what brought the density down from around 5-ish to more rounded number of 3.75. It's about 3.75 to be technically correct. But that's where we would propose to put the drip field for the sanitary sewer. And it's something that we met with, you know, our consultant, city staff, you know, Tracy, Ron, Tom, and went over what we're looking to do to serve this community. We've had preliminary discussions with Georgia EPD about this system, and they're on board with our approach. You know, we wouldn't, you know, file to get their approval until it's zoned. But they're on board with the approach, and it's something that is definitely feasible. We really need 6 acres. The back parcel where this would go is more like 15-ish acres, so we got plenty of room. But that kind of, you know, gave us the ability to develop the site without impacting Villa Rica's sanitary sewer system, and it keeps the community off the sanitary sewer system, you know, into the future. So, so what would otherwise take away from your capacity now and in the future does not do so. So, you know, in that sense, we see it as a benefit, certainly for the city. The other thing I'll point out real quickly is our entrance. Yes, impossible to tell from this image. I mean, it does have a scale on it, but we are about 750 feet away from the entrance to the V-Plex, is where you would exit the property. And so from a site distance perspective, that exceeds the Georgia DOT's prescribed site distance. So just as a reference point, if you're driving 65 miles an hour, DOT wants you 550 feet away from another driveway. And so, you know, I'm not sure what the posted speed here is, but I'm sure the practical speed is probably 65 and maybe 70, depending on the day. how much of a hurry somebody's in. So we've got a lot of room for people to get out. That was one of the concerns that was raised before. So let me just take you real quick through, the site plan. Again, 2 phases, wraps around the V-Plex, looking to maintain the pond as an amenity, as well as add more amenity space here. It's a large parcel, so it looks like a small space, but it's a very large, green space and amenity area. These are some elevations, sidewalks in front of the homes, attached garages, and, good landscaping, good curb appeal for the homes. These are renderings for our revised product, our kind of updated product. And this is an actual photo of what we've built in the past. It's not just CGI. And this is an interior of the home, clubhouse, interior of the clubhouse, some of our amenities. This property, this is in Paulding County, not too far from here. It also has a pond there in the background, which is stocked. It's got a fountain and a dock, and we keep fishing poles on site so that people can just grab a fishing pole from the clubhouse and go go fishing. So anyway, we're doing our best to create a great community here, that caters to a demographic that I think would appreciate it, and hope you guys are able to support it.
Do you have any idea what the rentals would be?
It would be around, say, 1,800 to 2,500, and that's probably a little low. It's probably a little bit higher than that.
So it's a little above kind of the average that we,
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
usually a premium for the age exclusion, for the age exclusivity. They're also large homes in terms of, a rental product. Oftentimes, rental product is very small. Having attached garages is an amenity that is, very, highly valued.
you mentioned something about not a dining facility, but a cooking facility. What is that?
Yeah, so our clubhouse is really part of the clubhouse. So we don't have a commercial kitchen because it's not intended to have a dining facility. But we do have a place where you can you can have a pancake breakfast. You can have you can bring your potlucks. You can have an oven, microwave, a large island, that type of thing. So you can host parties, and it's part of how we catalyze community.
Is that available to the residents to use?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there an HOA involved with this, or?
So we do have on-site management and maintenance. So it's we manage the entire project, landscaping programs, and obviously the individual homes as well.
Now, have you done a traffic study on 61?
No, we have not done a traffic study yet.
Because again, it looks like there may be problems turning to the left coming out of the main entrance. 'Cause
Well,
you gotta cross.
we can't, so we're not asking for a left-hand turnout. It's a divided median there, and so we don't have access to a left-hand turn. It's a Georgia DOT controlled right-of-way, and so as part of the land disturbance permit process, we would have to meet their standards for the entrance as far as a deceleration lane. We would have to meet their standards for stacking into the property so that we're not sticking out into the road, and those types of things. So that would typically be addressed during that process.
Any members of the commission have questions for the developer? Doug?
Some of this, I think, we went over last time. and maybe even some of it again this time, so forgive me if I'm going over again. But I just want to, these are in no particular order, but the acceleration and deceleration lane, I think the packets that we received, as I recall anyway, said that there were no plans, or that wasn't addressed, and there were no plans to have acceleration and deceleration lanes. And now, if I understand you correctly, of course, it's a state highway, and Georgia DOT makes that call, but has it been determined that there will not be acceleration and deceleration lanes?
No.
Or,
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you if you've
No.
got a series of questions, but no, I mean, I would expect and prefer there to be a decel lane. As far as an acceleration lane, I was talking to Commissioner Rogers earlier today, and the state DOT goes back and forth on acceleration lanes, because the current thought is you need to sit tight until you have room to get in the road.
yeah.
So they focus more on sight distance, and so that's really a call that they make on what we can do in their right of way, and what they require us to do in their right of way. But we're in favor of. I mean, I really do design these thinking about how my mom would live in a community like this, and I do not want to create a community that has a potential for, difficulties getting into traffic, harm. We've passed on sites that have bad sight distance and, those types of things. It's something that we're very focused on and will be part of the, design.
Okay. I noticed on the site plan, just in connection with what we're talking about, I noticed on the site plan, it looks like it's a gated community, and it looks like the gate on that 61 entrance is set back X feet to allow some stacking, to allow, do you know offhand how many cars before somebody's rear end is hanging out into 61?
Yeah, so I would imagine they're usually, pretty conservative. I would imagine it would be roughly 10 cars easily, which would be, I mean, that's 250 feet. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even that large of a queue. But and they usually count the deceleration lane as part of their stacking. But there's enough room to accommodate, whatever they require.
Okay.
So-
I asked that, for the reasons we just talked about,
Yeah.
but also if for some reason it's decided that there's no deceleration lane required, that may become,
That would push it,
that
yeah.
may become part of the deceleration lane as people are coming in up to the gate and
Right.
having a,
Yeah.
okay.
The other thing that we do is we typically have 3 gates. I think it's very small in the rendering, and it may only show 2, but we have a visitor or resident gate
Okay.
and then an exit, and so that helps the traffic flow, if you will.
Okay. And I guess one of the main issues is the change that we've seen now is where the sewer, or I'm calling a sewer system, I'm not sure if that's the right term, that you're putting in, that you're going to install, operate, and so forth, that's where Phase 3 was going to be?
That's correct.
Okay. And that'll be by with Georgia EPA? That's how you pay it.
Yeah, yes.
It coordinated through them and,
Department has jurisdiction over it. We went to Carrollton to see if they were, but because of the size of it, they passed it on to Georgia EPD. So they would govern it, and there's daily, monthly, quarterly reporting, and there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah,
I would think.
yeah.
So I have 2 other questions about that.
Shoot.
So you have this,
Doug, let's see if any of the other commissioners have some other questions before you get to your last ones. Tom, do you have any questions? David?
I had spoken with applicant earlier today, and he was able to give me some insight on the system. And I have some familiarity with those large industrial type of septic systems. my knowledge is a little antiquated, so it was interesting to catch up a little bit on how that works with today's technology.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to know, once that system is in, are you able to put, not maybe permanent structures, not other units on top of it, but some sort of amenities, some sort of, are you able to do any other building on top of that?
No, not that I know of. I mean, it'd be a grassy field.
Okay.
essentially.
And then my last question about that is, let's say 4 years from now, there's ample sewer provided by the city down there. Can you see yourself filling that in, closing down that system or something, and then maybe requesting to hook up to the city sewer and completing Phase 3 where the sewer had been?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, if that's a recommendation of the city, is something that you can certainly evaluate. If we were to do that, we would almost have to build two systems, and just leave one kind of dead, if you will, from day one, and that I can't see that being economically, feasible, quite frankly.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was part of your plan.
No,
All right,
no.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, call back the staff then. You're satisfied with the applicant's plans for the sewerage system? You've reviewed it? Because again, I have not seen that, so.
Yes, sir. They brought in the designer, actually, of this system that invented this system, and spent a lot of time giving us, briefing on how the system works, how many they've put throughout the southeast and really all over the United States, and it's really pretty impressive. But I'm familiar with these systems too, as being a builder, as on a smaller scale on drip systems and how they work, and yeah. So yeah, we're satisfied with that.
Are there any other systems in Villa Rica similar to this?
I would imagine there are. I don't know about in the city because we're mostly on sewer, but in the county, in any of the surrounding counties, you're going to have a lot of different drip systems for individual units, and I don't know how many we would have for commercial. You might be familiar with that, but it's the technology's been around for a good while, and it's really a proven system. So, yep.
Any particular reason why this wasn't originally planned in January?
I could not answer that question. That'd be something for the applicants. I presume that they were trying to hope that we had sewer capacity, and when that, to make their project go through, they're looking at alternative ways to go ahead and put a great project in here, so.
Any other questions for the staff?
No, sir.
If not, I'd like to have a public hearing on this proposal. Anybody who would like to come forward to speak for or against this proposal, please do so. Yes, give us your name and address.
Harry Steve Turner.
Come to the microphone, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Harry Steve Turner at 1745 Carrollton Villa Rica Highway, Villa Rica, Georgia 30180. I am the postage stamp right beside the Methodist Church. I'm the little 1 acre of land. I'm out of the city limits in my area. I'm just wondering, I don't mind it being what y'all are making it. It's better than being where anybody can move in. I don't have a problem with that. I've lived there since 1982, but I want some type of buffer where I'll still have my privacy, because I've had my privacy for many years, and I don't want, somebody look out and there be somebody right there, That's what my concern is. The traffic, well, 61's already bad, so it's horrible now. Sometimes you have to wait 5 minutes to pull out of your driveway. But main thing is me having some type, it looks like they're coming right to the property line with those going east to west. There's north to south and then east to west. And they're right, because I see the little grand piano pond, and that's the pond, and my house is walking distance from that pond. It's not up there, but I just thought it was up there. But I'm just concerned about, you know, my privacy, and they're gonna build right down the property line. I still want, because I have a pool, I think it had a picture of my pool on there. And I've been living there for a long time, and I sort of set in my ways, and I want either some type of buffer or some type of privacy fence or something built in that, on, between my property and theirs.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Any other speakers? Yes, please come forward. Give us your name and address.
My name's Eric Mitchell. I live at 2742 South Van Wert. And I will be on my property borders where the drip field will be. I just wonder about, is the smell gonna be bad on that? I mean, I'm not familiar with the drip field, I'm familiar with the spray field. And also, putting a resident entrance on South Van Wert, looks like it's gonna be right in the curve, and South Van Wert's people speed up and down that road, so that's something they might want to consider, like making the entrance bigger so you can have more visibility. But that's my only questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else wish to come forward to comment yes or no on the proposal? If not, I'll close public hearings and revert back to the commissioners. Any questions, comments?
John, how would we address the concerns of the citizens that were just brought up here now?
It would have to be up to the developer. Would you come forward and comment about
Yeah.
particularly the buffer zone? Is that planned or-
Staff and the developer maybe could tell us what they would do to address those concerns. Come on.
All right, good to meet you both. And, you know, especially Mr. Turner being literally right, you know, there. And, you know, this rendering is inadequate. I think a few you go back and forth some iterations, and you stop making comments on, but you know, the way they stretched out the picture about covered up your home. So, you know, I don't even know if it's kind of probably blurred over where it is now. But give me the mouse real quick. You know, we've got it's either yeah, right. And so we've got plenty of room to be able to buffer it and do a visual buffer. You know, I mean, I don't know how many feet is reasonable. You know, 50-ish. You know, yeah. I mean, in the last community that we did, there was a similar where there was a swimming pool adjacent to our property, and we put, you know, it just looked too good for. You can't. We're not building tree houses. You got to cut down trees sometimes, but we went back and put, you know, a bunch of arbor vitae around his pool so he'd have privacy. You know.
It's on y'all's property. There's one oak tree there, I believe, was there in the Civil War.
Okay.
It's enormous.
Okay.
100 years old at least.
I
Yeah.
hate to see it go, but if I go, it's y'all's property. You
Yeah.
do what you want on your
Yeah.
property.
Well, we
I
will.
just want privacy.
Yeah. Well, we'll try and find that tree, and you know, if we can save it, you know, I mean, we definitely.
It's easy to see.
It'd be a whole lot harder to replace it than save it a lot of times.
I understand if you can't, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if it's
We're not necessarily saying privacy fence, but as long
Yeah.
as landscape or
Let's-
whatever.
Sorry, we're just
Okay.
having our own private conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I apologize. And then, Mr. Smith, is that right? It's a great point on the curve. We need to look at that, and as far as where that goes and how it's landscaped, so that it has plenty of visibility there. In terms of the smell, we went and looked at a community. It's not too far from here. I want to say it was Coweta? It was north of here. It was in like Forsyth or something like that. Anyway, you can't smell a thing The way these are done, they use a very low perk rate and just spread it out, and they very methodically make sure it's distributed evenly across the acreage. And so, it's definitely not a spray field. You don't see anything. It's just kind of capillaries underneath the ground within the first 12 inches of soil. And it just perks in the soil. So,
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Staff, would you come back, please? Since I do not have a copy of what you have, would you please read the staff recommendations, please?
I will. Yes, sir. Staff recommendation, approval with conditions. The rezoning is supported and the density is encouraged by the comprehensive plan. The conditions will be the community shall be an age-restricted community in compliance with the Housing for Older Persons Act of 1995, which is HOPA. The deed restriction must be filed within 30 days of the final plat approval.
Nothing else about the sanitation facilities? Is that included?
Well, yes, it'll be a part of the whole submittal when they actually, once they get their zoning and they do their civils and the engineering, yeah, they will put a restriction on it without them doing their in-house system that they can't build because there's no sewer capacity there.
Okay, thank you. Any
Trey-
questions
Trey-
for
sir.
staff?
Yes, I'd have a question,
Yes.
Chair.
David?
What type of condition could we put in there to satisfy the neighbors? Because I know personally that they've been very good stewards of the, and very good neighbors over there.
Yeah, we could add the condition that there'd be a buffer that separates from the residential homes there, and I don't think you would have any, I don't think you guys would have a problem with that. They would have a problem with that, so we can make that a condition. Yep. Yep.
Any other questions?
And just along with David's point, also about the other point about the Van Wert, setting back maybe some of the planting or widening it, for safety.
Right.
Would
yeah.
that, can
So
that
we-
be added as another
yeah,
condition?
in our ordinances, we have the site triangle that they will have to go by, their engineers will have to go by, that will tell them how many feet they can have plantings or whatnot, and how far they have to see to get out on the road. So they have to take that into consideration in all their civil engineering, and all that will be reviewed by our engineer.
Thank you.
And I know this may come as a shock, but there are a lot of drivers that don't pay any attention to things like speed limits and sight lines and stuff.
Right, yeah.
You've noticed that.
That is true. You do. Yep.
Well, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the application as submitted, subject to the conditions and recommendations as outlined by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Before we call the question, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Again, with the conditions and those that were commented by staff. Okay, next item is RA 0223 Lake Paradise Road at Rockmart. Staff?
Yes, sir. So RA-02-23 is Lake Paradise Road at Rockmart Road or Highway 101, rezoning from AG to C1 to advance the construction of commercial use or liquor store or whatever they plan to do in the future in the C1 zoning there. let me get to this. The applicant currently owns the subject parcel and proposes a liquor store on site. Liquor stores are permitted use in the C1 zoning district. The applicant has indicated on the site plan that the convenience store will be 10,000 square feet. The submitted concept plan features septic field, and reserve, a stormwater pond, and 37 parking spaces. The applicant's request to rezone property to C1 requires the implementation of several non-residential design standards and other sections of the development ordinance that are applicable to non-residential developments. And the applicant is here for questioning.
Does this proposal meet all of the requirements as reported in section 827?
Now, what, could you ask me that one more time?
Does this proposal meet those requirements that is included in section 827 of the ordinance?
Well, you'll have to remind me what 827 is.
Well, that's a shame,
Well,
because we just received that by email. It was not included in the package. And if I can locate it. That's not it. (827) liquor stores, package stores, and liquor outlets. And it says the property must have at least 200 feet of road frontage, or at least 1 acre in size, must be used exclusively for the purpose of selling distilled spirits. Package shall not be part of a shopping center, must be standalone building. Any building constructed on the property, and it goes on to say what those sizes are.
yes, sir, it does meet them requirements for that section.
How many
They've got
liquor stores?
Go
ahead.
2.50 acres, and they've got multiple road frontage on 101 and Paradise that meets them requirements.
Okay. How many liquor stores are allowed in the city of Villa Rica?
So this is just a zoning to get to C1. This is not for them to get a liquor store. They would have to go through the process for that zone that's being put out for all the rest of the applicants that have to go through. And that has to be submitted, I think, by July 19th or something. What is the date on that, Kevin? But no, this is just to get, this is what they would like to do. But even if they got the zoning, they have to go through that process. They're gonna have to submit their plan. They're gonna have to do just like everyone else has done to get that liquor store. And there's, to answer your question, there's 4 districts. I think we got 1 approved
Yes.
already, and we put out to bid the other ones again. And this will be one of the nodes that did not have a qualified candidate the first time. But until they get rezoning, then they would not qualify because of the zoning has to be certain for a liquor store.
So, Mr. Chairman, if we do approve it, they have to carry my favorite scotch.
So what, if there's a rezoning done,
Right?
and then the liquor store itself is not approved,
Right?
now it's rezoned C1.
C1, so.
And now the owner can do a multitude of other things with that property.
Anything that would fall into that C1 category, yes, sir, you're correct.
So that's a little concern to me, because that area is already disputed with the cross-dock facility and some other things going on right across from, near that subdivision. And of course, not too far from the traffic circle and other things. Is there a way of first finding out before it's rezoned? I mean, I don't know if it's chicken and egg or cart before the horse. Is there a way of finding out if they can be approved for a liquor store before the rezoning?
There is not, because they could not put in an application that would meet our requirements. They would be kicked out.
Yeah, I would just have just go on record, say I would have a concern of what, if it's not approved, what else would be open to be put up there.
Of course, that's true of any rezoning that we do, so this is not unique to that. Any further questions for staff? Is the applicant here?
He is, they are.
Give us your name, please.
Good evening, Avery Ward with HRC Engineers. So we're the engineer that designed the site. We've got the owner, the property owner, and his agent here as well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, the one about whether there are any other plans for this property, or,
As far as I'm aware, the property owner is really only concerned with the beverage store at this point.
and if that isn't approved, what?
I'm not sure. Just sit on it?
I didn't hear what he,
He said sit on it.
A buy and hold.
I'm sorry?
They only want to do a beverage store.
Yeah.
That's all they have interest in.
well, I think the purchase price of the land was $400,000, I believe. And so that being the case, if that's not approved, the liquor store, is a $400,000 piece of property going to sit wooded? It just doesn't seem realistic to me that we're going for a liquor store, and if we don't get on it, we're just going to sit on it. There's got to be a plan B, and I'd like to know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one. Maybe the.
Come forward, please. Are you the owner? You're with ARPIT.
Yes, I work with Mr. Patel, and he owns several $1 million worth of property in Carroll County, Paulding County. We don't develop everything we buy. We actually sit on it for future values. You know, we bought this, thought it was a good buy and a good location. But we don't have any plans other, if we can get a liquor store, we'll build it. If not, we'll sit on it. I mean, and, you know, he owns a lot of property, doesn't have anything on it.
I understand. Any other questions for the developer? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will call for a public hearing. Anybody that wishes to come forward to speak for or against this rezoning? Seeing none at this time, revert back to commissioners, staff. What is your recommendation?
Staff recommends approval. Reasons: the C1 zoning is listed as an appropriate zoning category listed in the comprehensive plan for the suburban village character area. The use is the highest and best use of the land, and in-demand commercial use with minimal associated municipal infrastructure costs would be permitted to locate on this parcel. So we think it's a better use of land than the small acreage for I-2 industrial. It just really not big enough to do any manufacturing. It would be more beneficial to the city to have a commercial use on it. Low infrastructure costs, so we recommend approval on it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this application as submitted in compliance with staff recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 3-1. Okay. Staff comments.
First of all, I want to thank the commission for putting up with somebody subpar to Ron tonight, and he would have been a lot more prepared than I was tonight. And thank you once again for all your hard work and the due diligence that you do for the benefit of the community of Villa Rica. We're busy. We're getting applications in it all the time, so things are really picking up, and a lot of the projects that we've seen come through are starting to get to that point where they're going vertical. So we're going to see a lot of buildings being built, and staff will be really busy going forward. But once again, thanks for putting up with me tonight.
Are we going to go back to the Zoom sessions on Thursdays?
Yeah, we have not had anything new come in lately as far as them kind of meetings, pre-submittal meetings. What we've had come in is stuff that's already went through that and have got to the point where they're buying permits and getting their tap fees. But yes,
Okay.
yes, we can do
But
that.
so there, to your point, there is nothing new that's come in.
Yeah, right. We haven't got to that, just the stuff that's finally getting going.
Well, I would ask that you do please carry back to Ron the comments that we made
I will.
regarding
Yes, sir.
the zoning ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments for staff? Okay, I will open to public comments. I don't know if there's anybody left. I had 4 sign-ups, but I think they were all relative to, but do you have something you want to comment? Yeah, please come forward, give us your name. Address.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Marshall Phipps. I live at 79 Brookside Court. Now, this is actually regarding the liquor store right there. Now, personally, I don't mind it being there to begin with. In fact, I think it's quite nice that we're getting more business within that area. My only real concern is if there is going to be sort of like a tree buffer between the property and the road. Personally, I would prefer if there were no trees in that area. The reason being is that that particular stretch of road, when you try to merge right or left, because Brookside is to the left, and if you take the route, it'll take you to where that future truck stop's going to be, and then the traffic circle. My only real concern is visibility, because where it currently stands right now, the trees are a real pain, especially when you have to sort of secure your head around the corner to look for a vehicle, especially with that grade where it sort of hunches over where that intersection is at. I'm not sure if the property owner plans on getting rid of those trees. Personally, I do hope so, mainly because it'll just make things for me a bit easier. Personally, I don't drink liquor for personal reasons, but I do support his move to bring his business over there, because I know, like he said, that there's going to be a whole lot more buildings coming up, and I do like seeing the city change and grow, and it's something I do support. It's just one little nitpick of mine I just want to bring up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Staff, please make note of that concern and carry it forward. So, any other public comments? Okay. Staff? Yeah.
Renee reminded me, we did not, do we need to vote on tabling the ordinance changes to next? Oh, they weren't, okay, okay.
Okay. Anybody in favor of adjourning?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
We'll second that.
All in favor? We're adjourned at 7 o'clock.
We
Mr.
can't-
Chairman,
don't
I
need to rush,
apologize
John.
for my tardiness today.
Well, we figured you got caught in the rain.
And I was trying to call him, and I finally got Ron, and Ron called me back and says, "Hey, I'm going to let Tom know." So I just did the mad dash best I could through the mess with pretty hectic.
Well, we're
travel.
glad you showed
Pretty
up.
hectic travel
So,
schedule. I apologize for that.
I appreciate it.
It's not gonna be 342 units anymore, right?
No. Again, I'm pissed that I did not, did you get this revision to this?
When you mentioned it, I went through to look. I haven't seen it. So I
Did you see?
I haven't had a chance to
Did
go
you
through
see
my
this
junk.
revision to Highlands before tonight?
No.
And that's,
I'm gonna make that point.
now, the only heads up that I got was I've been in communications with the applicant, with Dave, and he told me that, about the system, and we talked in depth about that this morning. And, he indicated that staff he did have staff support with that system.
Yeah.
And I am familiar with it. It's about 10 years ago, but, so they could only have gotten better since then. But that is a pretty, and it's a super, super expensive